Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking time to try our new format because of Discord giving us a great time last week about, what was it, 2 weeks ago, trying to get alternative solutions for our streaming on YouTube's. So,
Because Discord thought it would be a smart idea to add these fucking boxes.
so yeah, we're a bit scaled on the bottom there. We're kind of squished in our safe space for virus protection.
Yeah. It seems a little stretched on the stream.
Yeah, I know. I gotta eventually clean that up, but right now it works, and we might get some people in later. But the joys of figuring that out is not fun. So today, what are we going to do, guys? Guess what we're going to do. It's a fun
We
video.
are going to discuss hamburgers.
I would love to talk about hamburgers and ground chuck and how you process it and how to clean it, and how to season it, how to salt it, how to... Oh, fun topic. Fortunately, we're doing some Star Trek, and it's a Star Trek video by none other than Steve Shives. A man...
And everybody knows Star Trek doesn't have hamburgers because it's the future.
Well...
And that's why conservatives don't like Star Trek, which leads us into our topic.
Yeah, only the right-wing people like hamburgers in the future, I guess. I don't know how that works.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's all fake meat materialized from the what's it called again? What do they call it?
Replicators.
Replicators, because everything has a replicator now. I keep forgetting what it's called.
Smud, could you maybe not stretch the bar as much? Like maybe you could just kind of live with a black bar at the bottom.
The black bar at the bottom of what?
No. So the where the icons are at the moment, they look stretched a little bit.
Yes.
So, could you unstretch them?
I can certainly try. It's going to take a while, though.
Oh.
Like, I was happy with what I got right now. That's why.
All right, fine. We'll just do it this way.
Well, okay then, guys.
I just focus a lot on the aesthetics.
I know. I'll fix it later. I'm just happy that this is working. So we might get some more later. We might get some more people coming.
Look, we're using just in chat. We're using Discord because Smudmore wants to use Discord. We don't have any options in this.
I want to try and get it to work in Discord and work around their system, just because that's how we've always done it. And I'll figure out a better solution later. How's that? Anyway, this is a 23-minute video. This is going to take some time. Let's get going.
Oh, I'm gripping the edge of my seat.
It's a funny thing. It can take people who have nothing in common other than
liking
the same show or band or team and bring them together into a community. And that can be a really wonderful thing.
Wow.
It can also be the exact opposite.
It can also be the worst thing in the world.
Because someone else is, say, a pro wrestling fan, that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with them. I know this will come as a shock to many of you, but lots of wrestling fans are major assholes. In fact, lots of people.
But having things in common is often a very good thing to make friends. Like, for example, I've made friends with a lot of people because we all love Star Wars. So that's something we all have in common. That helps.
I'm also friends with a lot of assholes.
Well, he's just generalizing. That's totally fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with what he's saying. Oh, here's a super chat. Thank you, Mariner1712. I like how everyone points to the TNG Blood and Fire script being too topical with gays and AIDS, but if you actually read it, it's tone deaf. AF. I'm trying to remember, what is Blood and Fire? Does anyone remember the TNG episode?
I've watched a very limited amount of TNG. I'm a much bigger fan of Deep Space Nine.
I know I've watched them all. I just can't remember. Could anyone remember what Blood and Fire was about? Gays and
I've seen
AIDS.
so many episodes, I can't keep track of all of them.
Well, let's have a quick Google. TNG Blood and Fire.
Oh, it was the one that was never made. Really? No wonder I don't remember it.
It was never actually filmed. According to some of the production staff, including Rick Berman, it had a negative reaction because it had a positive depiction of an openly gay couple.
Oh no. TNG, openly gay couple, Yeah, I know. The only
that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, we're thinking of like DS9 with the first lesbian kiss, I guess.
Has anybody actually read the script? Maybe it was shit.
Possibly. Oh, here's a super chat from James Moore. Thank you, sir. DM Metal Commander on Discord. A fan told him the solution for fixing Discord when streaming, and I've seen it in action. It's a mostly good fix. Well, that's great. Thanks for telling me, James. I wish I had that sooner.
Well, I guess we have to talk to Metal Commander then.
All right, let me write that down. Metal Commander.
I could always try and message him now if you want.
Well,
but I don't know if he'll talk to me.
Let's just keep going. This is going to take a long while if we start fixing stuff. WD Frost, what do you want, sir? Okay, so before going into the nonsense, best of luck, gents. Thank you, sir. We salute you, and thank you for joining us. We're in this together, so don't worry. We're all here. We're all in this wonderful world together.
We're all preparing to dive into this deep abomination.
Watching Steve Shives talk about how conservatives and Star Trek mix or don't mix in some fashion. I don't know yet. It's something special. We'll find out.
Are major assholes, generally speaking. So many people that while it's always disappointing, it should never be surprising when we encounter them in our various fan communities. Having said that, I admit there is one particular subgroup of a fan community that did surprise me when I first learned about them. That group is conservatives,
pray tell,
and that fan community is, of course, the Star Trek fan community. For those of you who are as naive as I used to be, yes, there are conservatives who love Star Trek. A lot of them.
Why is that a surprise? Can't people like something that...
No, because obviously he's one of those guys that thinks that like conservatives hate everything fun. Just want to like spend time with Jesus and hate space and science. He's like a cliche from 1996 or something. He watched too much Bill Nye and overdosed on it.
Watching Discovery, oh my god. People like the show aside from me.
So stupid. And then he just applied that vision to like everybody. And then anytime somebody Christian opened their mouth, he was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're Christian though. What an idiot!" And then he associated that with the George Bush era and was like, "Oh my God, all conservatives are from Florida and they like Bush." So it's like everybody's lumped into this one group. So he's surprised that somebody from this group is like, "Actually, I like Star Trek. It's pretty cool. I like it." Like, how could you? You're an idiot.
Often, so I'm someone who doesn't quite I don't really have a political side. I just have my own side in a sense. So I don't really identify as any of us. And I don't always agree with the politics on Star Wars, Star Trek. But I can often just enjoy the episodes for what they are because they often don't beat you over the head with their politics.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that I'm not even sure if Star Trek has politics per se. Like, everybody kind of gets along, and the only politics are people that don't get along with other people.
For example, there's an episode of Voyager. I always kind of go to this because it's the first one that sticks out in my mind. It has it kind of has an argument about the capital punishment, the death penalty, where it's this guy he couldn't experience empathy before, and after the nanoprobes, he ended up getting his mind repaired, and he ended up feeling empathy again. And all of a sudden, he started feeling empathy for everything he'd done. So there is a lot of politics there when it comes to the death penalty, but it does
politics, or is it morality and philosophy? With just like the political angle being that they are working for Starfleet, so they're in a political capacity. Because I felt like most of the stuff was about people's like visions about civics and ethics more than like what's the right way to solve a political problem. Because most of the problems in Star Trek are solved by negating scarcity and by negating like racial or cultural interest. It's all one culture. That's as far as we know. Like Starfleet, and everybody just gets along. Nobody needs anything else.
In the original series, there is the very blatant white and black people who are like the guys who have like black on one side and white on the other. That was a pretty blatant like idea of racism.
So like, does like
He actually covers that many times. Steve Shives keeps pointing the episode over and over and over again, like it's his one trump card. I play this card.
Oh, it's so stupid.
It destroys all of your arguments, evil right-wing conservatives. But that's not what it was. It was basically what the episode was trying to do was bring our prejudice, bring the prejudice people have in general, and put it into an alien society, so that we can look into the outside and see how silly these things are. So from us looking in.
It's not political. We don't really give a shit about what the other aliens' political process is, as long as they're not fighting other people. Because again, it's all about ethics.
And the thing is, I would often look at episodes like in the Pale Moonlight as some of my favorite Star Trek episodes. Ones which don't have things like it doesn't tackle problems like gays or the homeless. Because there is an episode of Deep Space Nine that has a bit of political stance on homelessness. It's not anything like that. It's just looking at the deep moralities of a man, and sometimes you have to do bad things to, for the right reasons.
Yeah, that's what Star Trek did. Was Star Trek looked at situations and scenarios, not just who's right and wrong. So the difference between what Steve Shives thinks is going on and the difference what actually is going on is that Star Trek is saying, "Hey, check out this interesting scenario. Let's check it out. Let's see what happens if a android gains sentience. Could we go over to see if he might deserve rights or not? At least the right to say no to him being dissected and possibly killed." And then Preachy is, here's the same scenario, and here's why you're wrong and I'm right. That's what be my politics and Preachy.
Well, to further the point that I'm trying to make here is like there's an episode of the original series where there are two states that are in like a Cold War where they're having a virtual war. And every time that they score a point on one side of the game board, then the other people have to kill a certain number of their own people so that it's all like clean. Instead of having some sort of actual reconciliation between the two civilizations, they just have this virtual war that's as safe and ethical or whatever as possible. And then like there's the real issue is not really about whatever is going on between the two countries, about resources or because what I'm really trying to get at is that Star Trek goes around political issues that have to do with any resources or any kind of philosophical ideas that are not dealing in idealism. Realistically, like if you wanted to go to a different sci-fi series than have scarcity, like something like Battlestar Galactica, there's an obvious gray area when it comes to the ethics of how to solve certain problems, like The Expanse. The Expanse is not like cut and dry. It's mostly about perspectives and politics. So, but Star Trek is not about that because it wants to propagate an environment where if you had everything at your fingertips, what would you then do? We live in a world where you can have anything that you want. You have all sorts of science and everything like that. So do you still screw people over? Do you still try to control people? What is the measure of a man? Morality. That's the reason why I love Star Trek.
And Steve Shives, for that reason, is really confused by this whole video. How come conservatives and right-wingers really like this series, other than for, the bad things that he does? Oh, you love it because all the aliens are not white. You love it because all the military stuff.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Interesting stuff. So yeah, Steve Shives is really confused on why people can look at Star Trek, even though they're right-wing, and still enjoy it. It's fantastic.
What is a right-wing sci-fi TV show? That would be like Starship Troopers or something. And the only difference
that one's more blatant than right wing.
It's not even like right wing versus left wing sci-fi. It's like Navy versus Army sci-fi.
Pretty much.
I can only imagine he would hate DS9 for its religious and warlike undertones. I mean, that would just so much people preaching about the prophets. Oh, what is this?
Yeah, Sisko is very much the captain of war. He is the mighty fist of the Federation.
Shiny, you're echoing a little bit, apparently.
Better.
I don't know.
Sounds good to me, guys. Your sound fan. Does anyone have any problems with sound? Just write it down in the comments, and we'll address it. But everyone sounds great to me.
I wear headphones, but I guess this mic is just really fucking sensitive.
Anyway, welcome to the chat, LiteratureDevil. Just saw you pop in there, so thanks for popping in.
Thanks. I don't want to miss Steve Shives. This is a fantastic episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the opportunity to just listen to somebody try and make everybody a Nazi.
This is easy mode. It's not like he's just trying to give nuance or trying to pretend that he's not just railing against one side. That he's one-sided. This is just an easy mode, just a complete misinterpretation of everything Star Trek stood for.
I've already. Before the stream, I already went over things like how he thinks Tom Paris is a Gary Stu, but the only reason why he's not known as a Gary Stu is because he's a man. Well, he specifically says Mary Sue, but...
Yeah, I'd have to watch that video of his. That sounds ridiculous.
He kind of is a little bit. To be fair, Tom Paris is a little bit... They could keep like lumping in all of it. He might as well just be in Bashir.
Well, his reasoning...
He suffers
his reasoning was, well, the reason behind it, where he uses an example, was that he knew how to disable Voyager from the inside. So it specifically talk about the episode where Voyager's taken over by the Kazon, and he says, "How come Tom Paris knows how to disable Voyager?"
Neelix knows how to lock people out of his kitchen. He's a fry cook. Okay,
but he has a problem with Tom Paris directing someone who's already on the inside of the ship on how to disable that ship, the ship that he would know very well as he's lived on it for a couple of years, and he's the pilot of it.
Yeah, he's the best pilot I think he's the best pilot on Voyager. He is really good at a lot of things. Every time they needed something new to be done, like when Kes left the show and they needed a new assistant for the Doctor, they put Tom Paris in charge of it. Every time something needs to be done and they need someone new to take over, they put Tom Paris in charge of it. He has to learn on the fly.
When it came to Tom Paris in the med bay, I think they often kind of refer to him as not having a lot of experience. As when the episode when the Doctor leaves, he's like, "I don't know what the fuck I'm doing."
Well, he did design the Alpha Flyer by himself. No, Tuvok helped, I think. But
it was Tom, Tuvok, and I think maybe Harry, and maybe B'Elanna as well. They were focusing on building it.
Yeah, so he's kind of like a grease monkey technician.
Yeah, pretty much. But the big Mary Sue moment, which is I think might be now considered non-canon, considering the later episodes, but the one where he makes this new engine with the usual Voyager nonsense with the magical metaphors and everything. It says, let's turn into a metaphor, then we can magically get around physics and stuff. But that one where it makes it everywhere in the universe.
I don't even bother with
the warp 10 barrier.
Yeah, the warp 10 barrier.
I just stop at Deep Space Nine. I don't go to Voyager nowadays in my cycle.
Voyager is pretty terrible for the most part.
That's my ending point is Deep Space Nine. I don't go past that point chronologically of release wise, and I don't like the TNG movies either.
And neither do I.
I love First Contact. First Contact, I love it.
The best one. I think the best one.
Fuck off.
To me, the best one might be. I like Nemesis the best. I don't like any of them. But if I were to pick one.
Nemesis.
That was fantastic. That was a lot of fun.
Because there's Bane in it.
It has Bane in it. It has Tom Hardy, and as Mad Max. It's Bane and Mad Max.
I knew they would never give us our freedom. We would have to take it.
But just speaking about Voyager, Voyager was, to me, it had a lot of promise and potential, but it never reached it. It ended up becoming pretty much, TNG light. It's everything, and every episode it got reset, and it never really got to the potential that it had.
That was the big problem with Voyager.
It should have.
Voyager had so much more potential than Deep Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine. No. From the start, Deep Space Nine did not have a lot of potential. It's there's a wormhole. They're on a space station. From there you think, what the fuck are they going to do? But they end up turning Deep Space Nine around, and they end up making it into one of the best Star Trek experiences you can really watch.
What they did is they turned it from a serialized thing into having more of a progression. And then Voyager, I was like, we're going back to.
But then
space,
Voyager,
but I hate Janeway. She's so annoying.
Voyager had the potential, but it didn't go anywhere. It ended up being very. The long journey home, it always ended up getting reset by the end of the episode. It was all squeaky clean, and a lot of the episodes like Year of Hell, to me, do stick out a lot. But then episodes like the Equinox just show how much potential it has, but then falls flat. ends up like, oh, Janeway ends up speaking holier than thou to the guy who's lost his ship, has lost his crew, his ship's fucking like half broken, the bulkheads are everywhere, and he's saying, oh, we shouldn't do murder. It's like, fucking hell, you haven't been to where this guy's been. Voyager's had a fucking easy time.
A Year of Hell is essentially supposed to be what was supposed to be done in Voyager.
Yes. And I know someone's saying, oh, well, Shiny's going at it again with the bad takes, or I don't know if I have. But I believe
rude.
that Voyager had so much more potential than what we ended up seeing.
Here's a super chat from Mariner1712. Thank you, sir. It's First Contact ruined Picard's character and dumbed down the Borg. Nemesis almost had a good idea, but Baird has no business directing. Now, I don't know if you remember what happened in First Contact, but the Borg go back in time to stop stuff from happening.
And that's a big reason why I hate that movie, because of time travel.
I think it's embarrassing that Star Trek V is better than any of the Next Generation movies.
The one that was run
For
by
me,
that one's the one where William Shatner is climbing up a wall made out of plastic.
Yeah, and
that's
singing,
awesome.
they're singing row your boat and all that stuff. Yeah.
And then he goes to find God at the middle, but it's not really God. And
It's Yosemite Sam.
what would God need with a spaceship?
I think the guy who plays Yosemite Sam is the guy who voices God.
It's awesome.
Personally, my favorite Star Trek movie is Wrath of Khan. It'll always be Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah, that goes without saying. Yeah, no,
It's just the of Star Trek movies.
And then Star Trek 3 and 4 after that, and then Star Trek 1 is like an anomaly, really good, and then it's also boring as hell.
It was pretty experimental, Star Trek 1. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like not even. It's like an. I give it a C+ out of 10. I don't even, you know what I mean? It doesn't compute. It's not like a regular. It's not like it's an adaptation of a long Star Trek episode, and it's not like it's a movie specifically made for Star Trek. It's kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey drug trip with Star Trek characters.
One thing that I find very interesting is that originally Deep Space Nine wasn't that well renowned or popular. It was only when it came to Netflix that Deep Space Nine became a lot more widely renowned.
That sounds like revisionist history to me, because I remember reading Foxtrot comics when Deep Space Nine was airing on TV, and it was like huge with Star Trek fans. Everybody loved it, and people would get into arguments all the time about if TNG was better on the internet.
I know. Obviously, I didn't grow up with the show, but I ended up through my dad, my uncles, and watching the What We Left Behind documentary on Deep Space Nine. But my common understanding is that Voyager was widely more successful originally than Deep Space Nine, and what that is often attributed to is the fact that Voyager is a lot more accessible. You can jump in on any episode, and you'd kind of understand where it is. Okay, it's another galaxy, they're doing this, that, and the other. You don't need to watch every episode, but when it comes to Deep Space Nine, there's a lot of things going on and a lot of things passed on from episodes earlier. It's not always restarting. It's often have a plot that spans the entire season, and I think that has a lot to do with because these days everyone watches shows from the first season to the last season. It's because of how we watch them on Netflix, on Hulu, on Prime, but obviously the way people used to watch TV is they used to just turn the TV on, and whatever episode was there, that's the one they watched. They didn't start from the first season.
They used to read the TV guide to check what time the episode was going to be on and wait every week, and there was like a week's worth of discussion around the water cooler about what the next episode was going to be like. You got like a 10-week or so run of television shows, and then there would be reruns which you could watch. I know we're off topic, Smud. We can go back to it. We can debate Star Trek. We can debate Star Trek anytime.
All right, here's Jake the Surgeon. Thank you, sir. You think Tyrone and Steve have alone time with his wife? Well, you're gonna have to ask Tyrone that, I guess. I don't know. I don't think we have access to Tyrone to ask him what his relationship is with his.
That's dark.
This couple is, yeah. Okay. Okay.
I don't know who that is.
Mariner 1712. Thank you, sir.
Tyrone with Bull. That's it.
TMP is literally what happens when you start filming with 2/3 of a script. No joke.
What was that?
The motion picture, the original.
Oh, the motion picture. Yeah. I never heard of it called that, TMP. That's funny.
Well, I would just call it Star Trek, the movie. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Star Trek.
The motion picture.
What was it? The Kubrick movie? It was the Space Odyssey.
2001. Yeah.
They're trying to copy that really hard.
The read your orifice. Like what? They're too obvious about it because it's Star Trek, and you're just like, I just want to see Captain Kirk swashbuckling and citing the Constitution at people.
Something I just want to point out is that he has layered the graphic track actually over the actual monitor.
Yeah, of course.
Why? Okay, I understand why some people have monitors behind it.
He's probably getting a strobing effect with his camera.
But then, just if you're going to go the effort of putting something there, then why do you need a monitor? Because I know some people do it because they don't know how to fucking cut things out.
Shiny, of all
but
things
Jesus Christ, Steve.
It's diegetic world building, okay?
You took the effort to give that angle, okay? You gotta respect that.
You get an F for effort.
But why? Why cut that onto the screen? It just... Why?
I'm asking more questions than he did.
That's a very nitpicky thing there, Shiny. I'm glad you found it, but...
I'm someone who focuses a lot on visuals.
Why would you put such an ugly person on screen for the camera? And you're like, Shiny, come on, what the hell?
Well, another thing, why would he have Discovery in the background? It's shit. Why would he have Discovery in the shirt? Why doesn't he get a better fucking graphic than...
According to Steve Shives, obviously Discovery is going to be the best one. It has the most left-wing politics in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he loves cursing in it because he also loves science, bro.
It makes his dad angry.
Also, that graphic.
Oh my god, I'd love to meet Steve Shives' dad and just ask him questions. That would be amazing. So when did you know that your son was? And then he'd be like, "What? Piece of shit." Sorry, no, I didn't say that. You said that.
Okay, another thing that's kind of freaking me out the graphics is that again, I don't like lazy graphics. So it's pretty much just a PNG of Earth, a PNG of space, a bit of text. And in the background, which makes it look worse, they've poorly composited a free what was it? I forgot what it's called now. It's basically just a thing you screen on over the space. It's just like a spot, and you'd give it a little tint, and that's a free asset they can get pretty easily. And it hasn't been composited well, and it really, I don't like it.
Okay, Shiny, we get it. You don't like his graphics. We get it.
I don't like the graphics. It's fucking shit. Oh, thanks, LiteratureDevil, for the thing you just sent me.
No problem. I don't like the graphics.
Very helpful.
Wait, look at it. The hat looks all terrible. It looks all out of. It looks pixelated.
And its face.
Look, this is all mean. This is
oversaturation.
Personality.
Personal attack. All right, we're now done talking about graphics. Okay, guys, no more graphic talk. We have one more super chat, and we're hitting the play button. Damn it! Damn it! Okay,
let's go.
Jake
let's go, Smud. Let's go.
How does Steve keep his lips so moist? It's creepy. Okay, I can't answer.
It is kind of creepy.
Guys, come on, we can't answer these questions. This is unreal.
It is kind of creepy. He has moist lips.
I bet Jake watches Shoe on Head. She noted that.
One thing I'm going to say is, Steve, if you want some graphics and you have a lot of money, give me a call.
Just graphics.
I don't agree with you a lot of the time, but Jesus fucking Christ, this is pain. At least make it less painful for me to watch.
I like what Imagination said. Imagination said, "Can we make Steve Shives non-canon?"
You're gonna be like, "Hey, Steve, I'll do your graphics," and then he's gonna write you back a letter in Comic Sans just to mess with you.
Oh, not Comic Sans! Come on.
No, don't use Comic Sans.
That's against the Geneva Convention.
I think every designer who's listening to this is like, "Oh, Glib, you just opened up a can."
Oh yeah, I write all my I post all my mail with papyrus.
Oh God, why? No!
Because it's default fonts. Just like cursing
right.
chat.
Are we done talking about graphics and fonts?
We're totally done talking about graphics. I apologize.
Yeah, we're on to the discussion of moist lips.
No, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about Star Trek. Let's start Trek.
How many? How large a percentage of the overall fan base are they? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
How large a percentage of the overall fan base are they? I don't know. But
it doesn't
I run
matter.
into them often enough that I sometimes find myself wondering, what do conservatives actually like about
It's kind of strange that you don't know the politics of
First, let me clear something up. A second ago, I was...
It's really telling that you don't know the politics of your typical Star Trek fan. But when Steve Shives talks about Star Trek, suddenly it's mainly because he polarizes it when Star Trek is not polarized. Maybe that's it. He's polarizing it when it's not polarized. And that's why he's getting all these people who say they're conservatives and coming out against him.
Look, I think Steve Shives would consider me a conservative, and I'm not even on the political spectrum. So
yes, I'm a conservative on the autism spectrum.
But I don't know if he actually asks if these people are conservatives. For all we know, these could just be people that he's talking to about discovery or talking to about,
it's pathology. He's pathologizing his opposition. He's like, you're all conservatives.
The only thing we know is
he's just assuming.
It's anecdotes. He said, I met some people. It's like, okay, thanks, Steve. Do you have any stats to back that up?
Yeah.
Either he's assuming or they're telling him that they're conservative because Steve Shives, knowing how Steve Shives talks in this video, he's probably telling everyone that Star Trek was traditionally always a far left show when it actually wasn't. It's actually a very balanced show. That's why everyone loves it so much. Or that's why there's a fan base that spans the political spectrum, as you put it, because it balances out left-wing ideas and right-wing ideas. It's a perfect balance between the two.
Here's a super chat from Jake the Surgeon. Thank you, sir. Sorry, Shiny. Steve doesn't like those clone folk. Oh, that's not very nice.
Oh, that's racist.
I think that's clonist, isn't it?
Clones are a race. Come on.
Here's another super chat from Coolman229. Thank you, sir. For Steve, everyone right of Stalin is conservative. Okay.
I would believe that, yeah.
I actually wonder what he considers the ideal leftism to be, because I wouldn't be able to tell you.
I think actually Stalin would be conservative for him.
If you asked him, you wouldn't know. He would just block you.
Yeah, I'm blocked by Steve Shives.
I'm not blocked by him. I guess I don't follow enough Sargon people.
Sargon people.
That's uncloned
just Sargon people.
Australians.
Are they all conservatives? I have no idea.
I don't know.
No Labour parties in Great Britain there?
Wasn't Sargon like left wing or something? I haven't watched him in fucking years, but I believe he used to be left wing at some point.
Yeah,
at least.
But if you're on the left and you say mean things or you believe can use like mean statements against other people, then you're a conservative. It's that's like the metric. You have to be like within the party line of whatever the attitude is.
I don't know like what he's doing now. I just remember my granddad ended up ranting about Sargon of Akkad, saying, "Oh, he's right wing, he's doing this, that, and the other." It's like, I don't fucking know. Why are you telling me?
That's the guy that even knows who he is.
I'm just glad your granddad is on YouTube.
Oh no. I've got one granddad he's really left wing, and another one who's really right wing to the point of being racist.
Fun.
Right wing, yeah. So
that was a Freudian slip.
I think that's just a British thing with Shiny. It has nothing to do with his interesting family he has there.
No, I probably did misspeak.
Well, here's a super chat from James Moore. Thank you, sir. I mean, Steve Shives must be a Nazi since he likes the Federation, who are more fascist than the mobile troopers. See, I can make stuff up too, Shives.
Yeah. True.
Well, as long as you don't catch Steve Shives syndrome, I'm sure we'll be fine.
I just wish he would define his terms. What is a conservative who likes Star Trek? Like, what is that? What does that mean? It's just
Can you maybe give us some examples?
Yeah, like, is it some guy he met in a bar in Texas? He's like, what is it? What are you talking about?
Is it just people he's been seeing in Facebook groups or like on fucking Reddit?
Anyway,
people that he doesn't like.
But someone said, aren't clones just space Australians? And I just want you to know that's very racist.
But is it inaccurate?
No.
Well, clones don't have, snakes and all sorts of shit trying to kill them every day.
Well, they have clones are fictional, and Australia doesn't exist, so I'll make sense.
Oh, that is true, but I suppose clones do have giant space eels eating them.
I thought clones were Kiwis anyway. I think we're off topic. Let's get back to Steve's Star Trek Shives.
No, we don't. Don't make me go back. I'll get angry. Don't make me angry.
Don't be angry. Be funny.
There are some failed British empires we don't like to talk about, but
yes, like America and Canada.
Failed British Empire.
The ones we don't like to mention anymore.
Anyway.
Being a conservative automatically means that you are an asshole.
I love this part.
Right.
What?
No. He said he's saying
you think like an asshole.
There we go.
I'm saying it means you have certain opinions, which could lead other people judging your character on the basis of those opinions to conclude that you're an asshole, but it doesn't.
What?
I love that smirk. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I say.
Because you're a conservative doesn't mean you're a Nazi. It just means you think like a Nazi. Come on, Shives.
I'm not saying just because you have to be an asshole. It means you think like an asshole.
Dude, I'm not saying you're gay. I'm just saying you think like you're fucking gay, dude. What? Like what?
But this is so fucking retarded. It's like, why judge people based on their politics?
Because Steve's insecurity is all built up around his persona as a political thinker.
I don't agree with either of my grandparents politically, and while I disagree with them, I don't hate them. I don't think they're assholes.
I was gonna make a rude. I'm really doing.
Is this what happens when like Movie Bob sort of person gets married?
That's like saying the two magnets can like touch each other. You know what I mean? With like a positive and a positive charge. Movie Bob can't get married. That would destroy the universe.
The thing is, Movie Bob. Steve Shives and Movie Bob are different. They're just different levels of retarded. No, different kinds, not different amounts.
Well, yeah.
Even Hitler had Ava Braun. So
Movie Bob wants to kill you. Steve Shives wants to call you an idiot. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
if you're conservative, you're an asshole.
No, Steve Shives is Movie Bob is like aggressive orientation of the soy, and then Steve Shives is like the defensive.
He's passive aggressive. He's
passive aggressive. That's what he is, because he's always like it's like he just said. He's like, you're not an asshole. That you think like you're an asshole.
Yeah,
like, that's so underhanded.
Thank you, Shives. Appreciate that. Give me some leeway there.
Yeah.
It's like that guy said, people who hate The Last Jedi aren't all like Nazis or something like that. It's like, thank you for saying we're not all Nazis, because that is something that obviously needed to be defined. We're not all racist, sexist Nazis.
Some of us.
Just apparently
99%, 1%, who knows,
Apparently most of us.
A percentage of a strong vocal minority. Or whatever they say. It's always something like that. Anyway.
It's not a large vocal minority. It is, however, a loud one.
Yeah. It's a massive minority of just a small, massive minority of people that are creating a huge storm, but they're not actually doing that much. They're just harassing people. They don't actually have any points. And they think like assholes. Are we winning?
But they're not assholes. They're not assholes. They just think like assholes. Right? Big difference.
Yeah, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going,
that
guys.
I'm principled, and I have like I'll make a statement like that. I have to pull back if I'm wrong.
It's not just people who have politics just have different perspectives and different beliefs and different opinions. It's like, no, if you think a certain way, that you're a fucking asshole.
Oh yeah, I'm so sick of that.
You are your politics, apparently.
I thought I'd go out of that in third grade.
You aren't your person. You aren't your own thing. You'll be judged and executed based on your politics.
That's right.
Doesn't mean you are one necessarily. I cannot wait for the comments on this one. Oh, your bias is so blatant. I expected you to be more impartial. But why?
No, I didn't expect you to be more impartial.
As delightful as it would be, and as richly as they deserve it, I'm not going to spend the rest of this video insulting conservatives. I'm going to insult them intermittently while exploring the various aspects of Star Trek that I think they're attracted to. But before that exploration can get underway, I think a
someone said you delete your
in
comments.
order. What do I mean when I say conservative? Very broadly speaking, for the purposes of this video, I'm defining a conservative as someone who favors unregulated free market economics.
This all sounds fantastic, by the way. This long list of things sounds awesome to me.
Oh, you love this? Okay, I can't wait to hear the rest of it.
Okay, so economic models have very little to do with your political spectrum. That's very, very specific.
But they have little to do with the idea of conserving a value system.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're right wing, you want a more free market. Usually, you want less government regulation. That's what it means by right wing economics.
That's not always a given. Like,
well, he's going for right wing libertarianism apparently in that statement, but I'm sure he's going to contradict himself in statements later because that's what they do. You have to everybody that you don't like into one group.
I like to point out
sure there's going to be I'm sure there's going to be a stab somewhere in the next 5 seconds. I'm just waiting for it. Some kind of insult.
My lips are moist with anticipation.
Let me just get my lip balm.
Who wants small government, who values individual liberty, but all
sounds good to me.
Doesn't everyone value individual liberty?
Yeah, liberty is such a conservative idea.
Apparently, Steve Shives doesn't. This is what the Steve Shives, according to Steve Shives, individual liberty, not so good. That's a good thing.
We need collective liberty. What does that mean? I don't know. Okay, I don't know.
You're only free as a group.
Strength in numbers, just like bunnies. We are prey.
Freedom is slavery. Okay?
What you mean?
See how that works for bunnies.
Bah, I say, bah.
Bah.
Also seeks to maintain traditional social and political hierarchies who...
Okay, well, that's a bit closer, but I don't know about hierarchies specifically. You could talk about the hierarchy of a certain organization, which happens to be political, like the House or the Senate or any other kind of organization that's part of the political system.
I mean, not wanting anarchy?
Do you think that he's referring to that in the feminist sense of patriarchy, or do you think that he's rebutting something that Jordan Peterson said about hierarchies in his book?
He doesn't listen to Jordan Peterson. It's Steve Shives. He's saying it's about patriarchy.
Do you think he would have read his book?
It's probably shit. Yeah, it's probably.
Do you think Steve Shives is the kind of guy who would step outside of his bubble? I don't think so.
Do you think he has the capacity to?
I'm saying that Steve Shives needs more dopamine, and then he won't be so aggressive.
No. That's the exact opposite of what he needs. He needs to be left in the woods for 2 weeks and see how he does.
Steve needs to become a more powerful lobster.
There we go.
Prefers stability over social change, who is skeptical of progress, who finds social...
Skeptical of progress?
Progress.
What the hell does that have to do with
progress?
The classic progression.
The classic conservative. We hate. The conservatives hate progress. All progress. It's not that conservatives hate progress. It is more cautious about it because there's progress means change, and change might mean that some things might be going away, or it might be being harmed.
Or maybe they want a progress in a different direction.
Yes, exactly. How do you know progress before, or if it's regression?
It's only progress when Steve Shives approves of it.
Right. It's only progress if it's doing something to make the people that he hates less powerful.
Yeah, I need a bit more definition of the word progress. That could be anything.
Then again, I suppose Star Trek doesn't have that much progress in it, right? It pretty much stays a lot.
There's no individual liberty or anything like that.
Well, I don't know about that. I think that Star Trek just basically is like a dream world. It's like
it progressed, and then it stopped progressing. No, it progressed.
No. Hold on a second. The progression is the exploration of the universe on behalf of the Federation, so that more people can join if they want, or more civilizations can be discovered, so that we can learn more about ourselves. It's basically just like a metaphor for existence in a nutshell. Like every individual human being is their own enterprise, going out there and trying to find new things and understand more about life.
Well, I mean, of course, Star Trek is a dream world. I mean, Star Trek is social.
Let me just
works. So
let me just finish what I'm saying. But in the idea of it being a dream world, but realistic, is that if personal property still exists, people still get paid. It's just that nobody's starving and nobody's looking for houses. There's a bare minimum, but then you can also get like higher ranks, and you can get a chateau in France and stuff like that. I don't know how that's doled out, but it's part of the idea is that they don't want to go into that. They don't want people to disagree. They don't want like the Chinese crew member to be like, America's number 4. And then the Taiwanese crew member goes, China number 8, Taiwan number 1. And then Picard has to go, oh my God, it's the Asians again. Like that's the whole, that's not the metaphor that Roddenberry wanted. He literally wanted it to be the crew relationships were all positive, and if they had issues, it was them helping each other with their individual issues. That's in the mandate.
And Kirk had a lot of positive relationships with alien females.
Well, Kirk is a player. And Picard is like
a pulp American hero.
Finding
what's funny is that Kirk is like
civilizations and banging every single one of them.
Kirk would be perfectly suited to be like a Roman consul or a barbarian. It would all depend on whatever situation that he was in. He just fills the environment. And then Picard is much more measured and what his considerations are. I feel like he's much more worldly, but Kirk is more idealistic, and that's why nobody can ever convince me that one is better than.
I just saw someone, Flint Glock would say no one, and then nothing, and then Picard is like, oh no, the Asians.
That's a Chase face out of context quote. Engage.
Oh,
sorry, Smud. We're off track again.
We're okay. This is all right. Let's keep going though.
Justice movements either unnecessary or threatening, who is pro-military, nationalistic, and
what the pro-military?
What do you mean?
Sure.
When I used to be leftist, I still believed in the military. What do you mean?
Yeah, Steve Shives. So Steve Shives, the military is evil. Police are evil.
Does he believe that there shouldn't be a military?
Yeah,
is that what he's saying?
I think he's part of the leftist wing where they demonize soldiers, all that stuff.
He must really hate Roddenberry because Roddenberry was a cop as well as an Air Force person. So.
You see what I mean? He's not watching Star Trek. He's watching the Star Trek he wants to watch.
Is it paused? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, sometimes it just keeps going past me. Roddenberry, I'm pretty sure was Navy, right? And the whole thing was a tribute to his time in the Navy, and that he loved ship because it felt like a working environment where everybody got along, which is kind of what Starfleet is all about. There isn't really an army in any of the Star Trek pictures or anything. It's actually it's almost funny because Star Trek is kind of anti like overt military action and more about like seafaring and exploration, those aspects of it. But I think
the
it's
Federation is a navy. Like they are a military force.
Starfleet is a Navy, Federation is a governmental organization or whatever.
Well, yeah, but the Starfleet is a military force.
Yes,
so it's just kind of very relaxed about it, and they're often try to solve it diplomatically most times.
But there's no space force. There's no like Star Force military because that was part of
the Makos.
No, but do you remember in the TNG episodes where they're talking about this? Mm-hmm. Q is accusing humanity of being irredeemable because of all the wars that happened, and that was. And Picard's counter is basically that they disbanded that aspect of their civilization and overcame it. It wasn't a given.
But there's still... this may be going off of things like Star Trek Enterprise and Star Trek Online, but if you go by Star Trek Online, they still have a military force. But then again, that is based after the all the movies and shit. It's the military force is like the specialists. It's the Makos, which from Enterprise, they're treated more like commandos that only required in certain situations and not always required.
I can't speak to anything like the video games. All I know is that in the original series, it was mostly about naval stuff.
Yeah, it was mostly exploration, science, medicine, and the most militaristic we got was in DS9 when they introduced the Defiant, which was specifically designed for war. So, but that was a story about war anyway, so it makes sense. But the Federation has always been about exploration and peace, so it's not really a war.
Actually, even in Deep Space Nine, they have a military. You see soldiers.
Well, there's a Dominion war, but the thing is that. It's still
no, even in the Klingons. When they were fighting the Klingons, they had foot soldiers down on the ground.
Yes, they do have wars that go on that these representatives of the Federation are a part of. They're trained, they can do this, but they're primarily not a military organization.
Right. Yes. They probably do have some forces, like are trained in specialist fighting.
Well, that's always been a question I've had with. I remember when I think the first season of DS9, it's like, oh wow, Bashir's going to kick everyone's ass. He's got this Starfleet training, and then he gets his ass kicked. You're like, what the hell? What are these guys so weak? I thought they had to go through like 3 years of this stuff. So
that's what was always funny. I thought about that fact of how Bashir he's just a doctor, and you have the science teams who are just there to like study plants and biology and stuff like that. And they find themselves stuck in a war.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I think most fans would say that most of the wars with like the Dominion War and all that were long arcs were actually kind of less interesting than just finding new civilizations and dealing with stuff. I think that part of the draw of Deep Space Nine was that you had all of this long-term subterfuge and characters that were developed that were kind of the scions of their people. So like the Cardassians and the you had Quark and all these different individuals that represented their people. Odo specifically, obviously, represents his race pretty well. So like I really enjoyed that gray area and that kind of stuff. But I just find it funny that somebody could put down Star Trek to one political side or the other when it's a writer's guide for science fiction writers to fill in their ideas. So it could go any way that the specific writer of that episode feels. Maybe there's a more patriotic episode here, and they're talking about how great America is. An episode later that's about how bad humanity has been over time, even America. This is completely valid because it falls within the guidelines that are given by Rod.
Okay, let's keep going.
But anywho,
plausible reasons. Many conservatives who have commented on my videos claim to enjoy Star Trek purely as an escapist sci-fi action-adventure show. They're either oblivious to its often heavy-handed political messaging, or they willfully ignore it.
What?
You know why that's possible? You know why that's possible?
What?
It's going to hit you over the head with it.
It's possible that it has a lot of subtlety as well.
Yeah, I said, it doesn't hammer somebody into the ground. It doesn't hammer like, Star Trek doesn't. Traditional Star Trek doesn't turn to the camera and say, "All you conservatives are jerks. Here's our message for the day." That's why if you're conservative or right wing, you're able to, if you want to, just ignore all the political stuff and just enjoy the show because you can do that. Star Trek allows you to do that.
Or you can just think like your opposition, and even if you disagree with something, you can still enjoy it. I don't have to be on the same political path as Orwell to love his writing.
Yeah. It makes arguments.
Stupid. And Steve just painted conservatives with this giant brush saying they either don't care or they didn't see it. It's like, really? We didn't? Yeah. We're that dumb, really? Okay.
Yeah, because in Steve Shives' mind, Star Trek is this far left show and very, very preachy and very, very in line with its politics. But it actually isn't. It's very balanced, which is why everyone gets along in that universe.
Yep. It doesn't favor anybody. It's all about everybody getting along because just like reality, we're all in this boat together for some reason.
It's all about saving people. It's all about giving enlightenment, sharing enlightenment to people, not demonizing people because they think different. That's exactly the message of Star Trek.
I'm surprised that he likes Star Trek because I could flip it on his head and be like, why do you like the show that's all about the white man leading all the minority victory? Like, flip that on you.
Somebody should make a video that's opposite of this. Why do far leftists like Star Trek?
Do people like the Constitution being quoted as if it's somehow good in history and that's somehow acceptable by an all-knowing being? Like, come on. Asking stupid questions.
That's a stupid question.
Shut up, Wesley.
That was an awesome episode.
Shut up, Steve.
Question. That too is a stupid question. Okay, we'll just let you through then.
How the mutants got through like the entirety of Starfleet security. It's like they just dress up as an admiral, and every time someone asks a question, that's a stupid question.
Excuse me, sir. Who are you? That's a stupid
question.
That's
a stupid question.
That's a stupid
Who are you here to see? That's a stupid question too. Okay, sir. Sorry about that. Just move along.
Get off my bridge.
I love those characters. The characters are fantastic. Anyway,
let's keep going.
The mutant race.
Some are so determined to view the show as nothing more than a shallow, silly outer space romp that they get annoyed with people like me for injecting politics into Star Trek, which
You know why you have to inject politics in Star Trek? Because it's not there. It's not there, Shives. Okay.
It's also two different statements. Like, I can think that it is a goofy show because it's like the 1970s and you have Shatner going around hamming it up, and you have funny dance sequences with green aliens dancing in front of lava lamps and shit. That's fine. And then at the same time, I can also be pissed at you for adding politics that aren't there into a story that does have interesting ideas about politics. Exactly. Every single episode.
If I want to watch Star Trek and not acknowledge the political stuff, not acknowledge the social issues they put forth as scenarios, not politically right or wrong, but this is interesting scenarios or thought experiments. That's what Star Trek is, thought experiments. But if I want to just watch Star Trek as nothing more than just a show, I have every right to do so, and Star Trek allows me to do so because they're not heavy-handed with right and wrong.
They're often very subtle, and they're often, they often show two sides of an argument, like the episode when in Voyager, when just because it's the first one I kind of come to when I think of episodes which have a kind of debate. The episode debates itself whether it's morally right to kill someone as the capital punishment for crimes they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, the episode doesn't even tell you. It doesn't explicitly say if the capital punishment is right or wrong. It literally presents two sides of an argument and lets you decide if you believe it was right that the guy who killed these people should have died, or because he's changed, maybe he shouldn't have to go through the capital punishment.
Here's another good one: is when the Gorn episode or whatever, where they're goofy and Shatner's doing his Shatner chop move and fighting this alien guy. But at the same time, it's about a philosophical point about these two creatures that can't really communicate with each other, being forced to fight with each other for other people's entertainment and judgment. And then they come together and go, no, I won't kill him. And then
they
solve the problem. That's
Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a thought experiment and all this stuff. It's like, what the question that I would ask again, because my initial point was how morals, philosophies, civics, and ethics. That's really what Star Trek is about. So what's the far left political angle about lore versus data?
That's why people like it, and that's why the horrible fight choreography of Trek food doesn't really matter. It's not really about the fighting. It's about the ideas behind the fighting.
Yeah, and it's, I love the goofiness. I don't mind that. I don't mind that the music is going like
da 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 da.
I love that. It's hilarious.
I came to enjoy when one of the main characters just give a nice little karate chop to the back of the head and they just fall down or something.
Yeah, and then the funniest part about that is there's a diegetic reason with the Vulcan mind meld thing and the Vulcan whatever touch thing that he does. That's like Nimoy's like, I don't want to. I'm not going to punch him. I'm just going to touch him and he'll fall over.
Oh yeah,
they give an actual reason, and it's better. That ages better than the actual fighting, just because they gave a logical reason about what's happening. That's Star Trek, thinking ahead of the time.
I really did like the interview with Leonard Nimoy. I think I posted it here as well. It's kind of comparing Spock in Discovery to like what Leonard Nimoy's saying. Actually, we can watch this watch the clip after if you want.
Here's a super chat from Alexandra Moses. Thank you. The Renegade Cut said Sonic 2020 was very conservative. Now, I don't think I've watched the movie. It's a video game movie, of course. Does anyone who's ever seen it seen any conservative messages in a Sonic
From what I've seen
in Sonic the Hedgehog?
People,
no idea what he's talking about.
In fairness, people before the movie even came out started saying, "Oh, it's homophobic. It's this, that, and the other. I took my child to see Birds of Prey instead, and that was a better time." Go watch Bird of Prey.
But that sounded like an advertising line, though. That didn't sound organic. I remember seeing a bunch of those posts over and over again.
They can't have been truthful because the movie hadn't even fucking came out yet.
Right. So it's just like nonsense again.
All right, let's keep going, guys.
Okay, I get that maybe you'd prefer not to focus on that part of the show because you
we
don't
have to
constantly being...
We have to watch this after I just posted it.
Okay.
I love it.
What a dick you are. But nobody has to inject politics into Star Trek.
Did he just say he does that?
He says, I think he said that people accuse him of injecting politics in Star Trek, which he does. He totally is injecting politics into Star Trek because they're not there. I mean, old Trek, new Trek,
he's mad that you're mad that he's injecting it. He's not denying that he does it, saying it's fine. He's like, yeah, what? Yeah, I inject politics in there. Why are you mad? You're conservative.
He doesn't understand because all he sees is left-wing stuff. All he sees is far left politics, the far left side of Star Trek. He doesn't see the conservative issues in there. I mean, yeah, he's going to lift some out, but he says, well, that's just not really there. You kind of like it because it's racist and stuff. You like the racist part of Star Trek. The real Star Trek is all the left-wing stuff. Like, no, it's balanced.
He's the kind of guy you're like, Steve, don't conservatives have nuance? Don't you understand that they get it? And he's like, if they had nuance, they wouldn't be conservative. And you're like, oh, great argument. Yeah.
Already in there. Whining over people injecting politics into Star Trek makes as much sense as criticizing that video I made about Worf a while back for injecting Klingons into Star Trek. Like what you like for whatever.
I forgot about that. He made a video on Worf. We need to check that out.
Yeah.
You don't touch Worf, Shives. Don't you dare lay your grubby hands.
Don't lay your hands on him.
Pretty sure Worf would not like Steve to touch him.
Oh, I'm certain of it. I'm certain.
What are you doing, human?
Just break Shives' arm in 3 places before you even notice. He knows he touches him.
He's all calmly like intimidating. If you do not unhand me, I will bat lift you.
You will have a very bad time.
Your time will be very unfortunate.
That's Worf. There he is. Your time will be very unfortunate.
I gotta love this thing we paused on. Look at that. That's a woo.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed too. Every time I pause it when I cover this on my stream, he always gives a face full of hate and anger and disgust. It's always very strange. Yeah.
I wish you invited me on for that stream because I would I want to get at this guy. I fucking hate him.
Shiny's like, I want to fight him. Hold me back. Hold me back.
Hold me back.
I'm gonna criticize him really hard.
I swear, when I first saw this and LiteratureDevil showed us a couple of quotes, I was angry. I was.
I don't get angry anymore. I just try and I try and figure out what's happening. Yeah, it's just funny now. I'm trying to educate and also make a joke out of it because otherwise it's like you don't want your soul to be crushed by somebody who gets off on it. You're like, screw that.
That's what they want. They want you to be angry and upset.
Thing is, when I get angry about things like this, it's not often like serious angry. It's more like what the fuck angry more than it's actually gonna like piss me off for the rest of the day.
I think that ended for me, and I know this is a diatribe. What happened to me is when I watched The Last Jedi for the first time, and then my grandfather died like a couple months later. That was like the end of me giving a shit about other people's IPs, as if like I'm gonna let it emotionally affect me, And so like ever since then, I'm like, I'm just gonna disagree with people that are stupid on the internet. Have fun with it with my boys. Because otherwise, it's like that's the humor now. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna destroy our entertainment. We might as well laugh at destruction.
Well, the thing is, also another thing is, it's kind of funny to see people get angry. I know people have laughed at me when I got angry in some of the other streams.
No, it's great. Yeah,
it's funny. I do it a little bit. I put it on a little bit as well.
Righteous anger is humorous. That's very good.
Well, we have to listen to this bell end now.
We don't know what that means in the North America part of the world there?
Dick. It means dick.
Wiener?
Think about it.
The Wiener Schnitzel. Ah, yeah, da.
Ah, yeah.
Reason you like it, but just because you don't pay attention to the show doesn't mean the rest of us don't. I found it's just a silly sci-fi.
Okay, so conservatives are bad and they don't pay attention. Okay, good. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, great.
I show thing to be an especially common reason given by those who have enjoyed older Star Trek shows or films, but don't
Deep Space Nine's not silly by any means.
Such as
it's very serious.
Timeline movies or Discovery or Picard. I've gotten numerous comments from people who say they liked Star Trek before it got preachy, or back when the writers didn't feel the need to push their political opinions onto the audience. How did these people not see the political messages in original series episodes like Balance of Terror or A Private Little War, or next-gen episodes like The Measure of a Man or The Outcast? For some, I think they might have missed the content of older Star Trek because they didn't feel personally called out by it. Star Trek is popular all around the world, but...
Did you want to say something, Glib?
Sorry, it's my stream. I'm gonna go back to the watch together because it'll keep playing after you pause it on mine. So it's the timing is going off. My apologies. Sorry, he mentioned A Measure of a Man, and I meant episode. I know they're not the same episodes, but I always find it funny whenever data or any AI are mentioned. It's always about like a rights issue, but it's also about a philosophical question of identity, and that's the bigger issue. They couch the Measure of the Man episode into a judicial context because they're trying to treat him as if he's property or not. Obviously, that is like a perfect slave, allegory from the 1800s and such. But that's only one dimension. So if we want to just look at it through one dimension and obfuscate the rest of it, which is the deeper question about what is the measure of a man? The name of the episode is the theme right there. It's more about the humanity, and that's what Picard is more interested in, I think. Mm-hmm. So again, it's seeing the politics side of it is trying to contextualize something deeper that exists in an eternal space that can be visited at any time in the future, and trying to apply it to our situation now, which is inapplicable because Star Trek is contingent on things that have already been solved. If we had replicators, there wouldn't be very many arguments about farmers or peasant land reform or agrarianism issues because you could just replicate it. It's stupid.
I agree. It's episodes like that, and then when the Doctor's trying to get its rights, it's a lot more about identity than something like racism or sexism. So,
here's a super chat. Here's a super chat from Mariner. Thank you, sir. How did he call A Private Little War a liberal episode? If you don't know A Private Little War, I believe that's from the original series. There's some sort of Klingon threats, I think, and there's some sort of breach of Starfleet's orders. So you have to actually watch the episode. It's very specific to see what the message is and how the Prime Directive deals with trying to help these people who are a little more primitive than the rest of the galaxy. I think. I could be wrong.
And how did Chief Shives mention Measure of a Man? How does he like that episode? Because according to his own definitions that he stated earlier in the video, Measure of a Man is a right-wing show because it's about personal liberty for Data. And according to Shives, personal liberty is the exact opposite of what he believes in.
Individual liberty, that's right. Yeah.
He said that. That's not me making conjecture. That's exactly
what he literally said that. Yeah.
Yeah, he literally said that.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Literature Devil.
Big brain time.
Here's Oren Albert Meisel. Thank you, sir. Is this the dreaded Discord Square update? Not only is it the dreaded Discord Square update, it is the Smudboy scaled Discord Square update. So it looks like ass.
This stretch looks god awful.
Look, Smudboy Square.
Yeah.
Smud. Maybe I can try and work something out for you.
I know how to do it. I'm just too lazy to spend the hour.
Just a picture that you could just place at the bottom of the screen that you could just maybe update for who's on the stream.
But see, you're talking about graphics again.
Stop talking.
Look, they're my thing. It's my thing. Okay, I'm very obsessed with it. No, stretching it doesn't make it better. That's objectively false. Stretching things is not the right thing to do by any means. Never stretch anything. Especially when it comes to images.
Anyone heard of Anti-Trekker? I just heard of him the other day.
Yes.
And someone's mentioning him. I should watch. I'll probably watch his show. I mean, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's hilariously awful. The idea that you have to be so partisan with your sci-fi shows is quaint. I enjoy that.
I have no idea who Anti-Trekker is. Who are they?
I just heard about Anti-Trekker. I didn't.
He hates Star Trek. I'm pretty sure he's a huge Star Wars fan. I think that's his gag.
Oh, God. Why can't people just like both? Like I do. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love Stargate.
Why can't Anti-Trekker why does Anti-Trekker insist on debunking my happiness?
Doesn't know it's a movie about space captains for middle-aged white people.
Yeah, do you know about that? It's about space
conservatives. Space
conservatives.
Yeah, usually
Space Boomer Show.
It's a movie for space boomers intended for boomers.
Aren't we all just boomers
in space?
In space.
Star Trek is so awesome. Star Trek is so awesome.
It really is. It's fun. It's fun, and I can't believe that somebody is trying to come in here and like unpackage all their little socialist weird ideas into it. Like, hey guys, check it out. Hey guys, this with me. Like, I don't need that.
Why is Star Trek has always been far left. It's always been left wing. No, it's not. No, it hasn't. Okay.
You guys are conservatives.
I would also say whenever Star Trek has been left wing, it's usually been. It's not what modern day left wing usually. So if you look at the politics which is being pushed in earlier Star Trek episodes and episodes which are being new politics which are being pushed in those, there is a huge divide by how they push them and what politics they are actually pushing as well.
It's obviously not for conservatives because it has the first interracial kiss on television. How could a conservative like that?
Right. But I mean, isn't interracial kiss? Isn't that technically individual liberty because they both just chose to do it on their own? So that's very conservative.
Well, no, the show is obviously progressive because it brought two people together like that, obviously. But it's also colonialist because it's a man that's white doing it to a woman of color who is unempowered. Because it's a Me Too movement moment.
80s conservatives and 80s liberals also are very different to modern day liberals and modern day conservatives. So it's they often share different beliefs than what would have been considered more liberal and conservative in the 80s. So they probably wouldn't, if there is a politics being pushed, they probably wouldn't have had a problem with these older politics. The problem is the newer politics, and it doesn't matter what kind of politics it is in reality. It matters that a large amount of people have a problem with these politics, and as someone who is creating entertainment, you probably want to make it most enjoyable for everyone. And I would personally say that the episodes I enjoy the most aren't even the episodes you can consider to be close to political. It's usually the deeper moral episodes which become the most interesting.
I would say that yesterday's liberal is today's conservative.
Deep.
I think the joke that I had growing up, you start off as a liberal and then you mature into a conservative because
pretty much
you have to survive.
Yeah. Once you get on your own, then you don't have your parents as the socialist government.
Okay, let's keep going.
Well, in my experience, it tends to be a lot more generational as well, and depends on it depends a lot on the environment that people grow up around. And there's often a tendency, if there is a lot of leftist ideas, then it can often also generate polarizing opposite. So just because of the extremes they can go to, when you have a lot of people who are agreeing with each other. And same with conservatives as well. You can often get pockets of more liberal areas in places which are a lot more conservative. Just in my experience.
Sure.
But it has always been first and foremost an American show produced for an American audience. That being the case, the heroes are mostly Americans, metaphorically and also literally, with a few notable exceptions like Captain Picard or Scotty, who are established as originally from outside North America and speak with accents that mark them as such. The heroes in Star Trek, especially TOS and TNG era Star Trek, are straightforward, brave, more...
Okay, everyone knows why they use stereotypes in the original trilogy. I mean, the original series, right?
Sure.
Yeah, because they specifically used stereotypes of other nations and everything, like stereotypical Asian, stereotypical Russian, so that it's easier for the uninformed or for lack of a better word, the ignorant, to watch the show and easily identify. Well, that guy is from that country, that guy is from that country, and you can easily identify, even if you've never been out of America or whatever, that all these people were from all around the world, and they're all working together.
Yeah,
that's why he used stereotypes.
It was kind of funny because there was Chekhov, and this is during the 60s, I believe. Chekhov wouldn't shut up about Russia. Russia's this is great, we are doing wonderful things. Like, it's hilarious. It's like, this is like, you don't pay attention to that until you actually listen.
The Russian missiles, a super Russian. It's just like the worst accent ever, and he's actually got like a German name and everything. Also, I feel bad for him.
And you don't. What the thing is, you don't see. What you don't see is the demonization you usually get with, because they're usually, have propaganda. These Russians are usually enemies. Chinese usually are enemies during that time because they're communists or whatever. But we see them in the bridge working together with our very American captain, and with all that, we see how they act, and we see them being people instead of caricatures or images on propaganda or something.
Also, I'm pretty sure that James T. Kirk is named after James T. Cook, who was an English captain. So I think the Anglo tradition of the Navy is huge in Star Trek, more than just American.
So
Plus, there's a lot of globalist ideas like United Nations stuff. It's a one world idea.
I want to talk about something he's specifically saying. So he's saying that, stereotypically these captains in TNG era and original series era, they're very strong and brave. And it's like, yes, they're good leaders, because people who captain ships and lead people need to be good leaders. They need to be commanding and brave. So I don't understand where his point is going with this.
As the whole episode about Picard, all about that, where he made a decision that was strong and kind of it fed into his like erratic nature, and he went back in time because of Q and made the more logical decision as not to get involved, and he didn't turn out to be captain. He turned out to be some officer on the ship that he used to captain.
That was a great episode. I remember that. It was
That was an awesome episode.
I love Q episodes.
Another thing is like the I would say that yes, maybe he's trying to go over that aisle of it's like, characters who are strong and brave and interesting. Well, it's like, no, you can definitely have characters who are interesting and have depth. Just not just because they're strong and brave doesn't mean they have to be shallow. I would say the only kind of thing one thing I don't like about the Orville is often the way Seth MacFarlane portrays the captain. Sometimes he's he doesn't feel like he should be the captain. He's very childish and petty, and sometimes quite cowardly. And while that can make a more depth character, that doesn't necessarily make it a good captain or a good leader.
Most of these stories were not character focused. They were more episodic plot focused. So what was the problem that everyone had to try and resolve? They did sometimes go into character backgrounds and personal issues like marriage and what have you, but very rarely it was always about where were they going, what's the problem of another organization or another planet, and how to solve that. So it wasn't so much character focused in that regard. But we expected the stalwart sort of attitude from Picard, the diplomats. I don't know what role he was playing, aside from just being the go-to guy. It's like, we need something.
Other than being the Commander Smug.
And in Kirk. He was basically Kirk to...
Spelled sideways, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny.
Well, he was Commander Smug a lot of the time.
I think he was like the junior officer that was trying to learn from someone that was wiser than him, and he was more prone to mistakes. But he also had a mind that could maybe keep Picard fresh.
Because
he was supposed to be a banter foil.
He offered like captain positions so many times, but he just stayed commander. It's like, why would he do? Why?
Well, he
was offered a captain position before he became first officer on the Enterprise.
Why?
I think his relationship was supposed to be something more like McCoy, and then his position was supposed to be a more official version of Spock.
Canonically, Riker was really unsure about taking the responsibility of captain, so he didn't. And they explore reasons why. In his past, he had some troubles in his past about the authority, and he has a very loose cannon kind of personality. As long as you see him in the first few seasons, his culmination of his character really came in with what was it? The one where Picard became Borg, if it was called
Best of Both Worlds.
Yeah, but the best of both worlds. That's when Riker became captain because Picard could no longer be captain because he was a Borg, and the moment he said, Mr. Worf, fire, that's when he really took charge and was able to become his own man. Became captain material, but status quo is God, so he went right back to being first officer.
Yeah, he's got to stay first officer. Can't bow out of the show.
Moral, they represent law and virtue and enlightenment. The Federation itself is depicted as an overwhelmingly positive institution. Sure, there's a bad apple every now and then, but fundamentally...
Like every admiral?
Yeah, that's the strange thing about the Federation and the Starfleet. Every admiral, for some reason, is crazy. I don't know what's going on there.
Every admiral's a dick.
Especially Macheyev. Especially Macheyev.
They're either warmongers or they get possessed by some alien or some other reason.
Or something.
I think that's probably more for the show to have some kind of conflict.
I'm pretty sure that's why Picard didn't. He kind of held off on the admiral position the way the Riker held off on the captain position because I don't want to go crazy.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't know what
sheer fucking hubris.
It's like that'd be a great episode. There's a conspiracy to drive all the admirals crazy, so like keep the Admiralty from rebelling or something like that.
But yeah, sheer fucking hubris.
The Federation exemplifies benevolent affluence. Its society is open, tolerant, and just. It tries to keep the peace, but when it goes to war, it's always for a good reason, and the enemies are invariably a dire threat to life and liberty in the galaxy. That sounds a lot like how conservatives describe the United States. The shining city on a hill, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Okay.
Yeah. U.S. ideals. Yeah. That's basically what Star Trek was founded on, the U.S. ideals. Now, the United States might not have done the best job, but when it's just the ideas that the United States was built on. Free speech, free, the ability of free expression. A lot of people who are different in background and personality and ideology getting together and essentially working with one another. That's what it was built on, not necessarily America itself.
I'm just kind of curious how that has nothing to do with left ideals. Like, what's the difference there?
Hey, I don't know why Shives keeps saying all these good things and saying it's conservative ideas.
Apparently, leftists don't believe in individual freedom or the country of the free or
shining cities.
So is Steve trying to red pill us? Is this a conservative? If you like Star Trek, you might actually like being a conservative. Think about it.
Well, thanks Steve.
Yeah.
I used to be a centrist, or just not have any kind of politics whatsoever. But now I'll agree with Star Trek. I must have become conservative.
So let's go over what Steve just said. Actually, he said that when Star Trek is the shining city on the hill, it's where everyone is. It's basically utopia where everyone gets along, and it's fantastic. There's trying to make peace throughout the galaxy, and when they do go to war, they go to war for the right reasons. Always the right reasons. Always a just war. And whenever they go to war, it is against an enemy that represents a dire threat. That's all conservative nonsense, according to Shives. If you're left wing, a liberal, that's all. You wouldn't believe any of that stuff. You want dystopia.
Obviously, yeah. If you kill your enemies, they win, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna save, not fight what we hate.
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Harmony.
When you die, you win. If you let your enemies kill you, you win.
Yeah, coexist with the Borg. That'd be great.
And coexistence is a conservative value, according to Shives.
In no way is this some sort of subconscious death cult of the insecure.
Oh. Well then, let's keep going.
Indispensable, exceptional. The socio-political problems addressed by Star Trek are usually, and in TOS and the TNG era, nearly always found in societies from outside the Federation. It's the Cardassians who occupied Bajor, the Romulans who manipulated galactic politics to their own advantage, the Klingons.
Okay, can I'm going to say something right here.
Yeah, go for it.
Here's what Steve Shives is missing. Okay, Star Trek, the Federation, and the Starfleet, it's representing the ideal situation of humanity. these three enemies, the Cardassians, the Romulans, the Klingons, they represent the extremes of the three main ideals of the Federation. The main Federation, they know what the good side is, but Star Trek does not explore you're wrong and I'm right because I believe this and you don't, or you're against this and I'm not. They explore what they should explore, and that is a scenario or ideologies or a way of or mindsets. And they show you the good part of the mindset and they show you the bad part of the mindset. The Klingons, the Romulans, and the Cardassians, they represent the extremes, aka the bad part of these mindsets. So what do you have? You have Steve Shives says the Starfleet goes to war. They go to war when it's just. Klingons do not. They are aggression. They basically Ares. They're Ares to the Starfleet's not Minerva, but Athena. Okay, Ares is aggression. Ares is just straight up violence and brutality, while Athena is more along the logical line, the planning and concentration. So, Federation conducts just war, while the Klingons conduct unjust war. Now you go to the Romulans. The Federation is always being expansionist in its own right, but it's kindness. It's kind expansionist. So they'll make a peace with different cultures, different races, and if they want to join the Federation, they allow that. But the Federation does want more people in the Federation. Well, they do so through peaceful means.
They also basically have a non-aggression pact with any civilization that they deem to be technologically inferior to them. So any situation where you could be taken advantage of, the Federation.
Pretty much.
They're like, that's unethical. They're also like, if we make first contact or whatever with a civilization and they want to engage in the Federation, then they have the option to do that. I'm sure that you can make an excellent multi-layered complex episode or a whole movie just about one civilization trying to join the Federation and disagreements.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You got to help us. We want to join the Federation. Then the Federation has like a Kirk or somebody's like, I can't do that because like we can't fight the other people. That it's a disagreement. And they're like, yeah, but the disagreement is violence on one, democracy on the other, and then the ethics of that and like secret operations and subterfuge. But no, it's all That's Star Trek.
Federation does expand. They want to expand. They want to add in new worlds into the Federation. So they are kind of expansionist, but it's more on the morality and it's more on the diplomacy side. That's opposite of what the Romulans want, where the Romulans are also expansionist, but they do so through conquest, through violence, through aggression. Not the same way as because they're more thoughtful than the Klingons are. They want to expand aggressively, while the Klingons don't really want to expand as so much as they just want to fight. And so while
to conquer.
There is a aspect of war in the Federation, the Klingons represent war taken to extremes, unjust war. And while the Federation wants to expand through diplomacy, the Romulans represent the extreme of that, unjust expansion. And so you go down to the Cardassians, where the Cardassians represent order, while the Federation represents kindly order, or they represent order through getting along, through companionship, through being getting on the side of mutual growth in relationships. The Cardassians represent the extreme of that. They represent the tyranny of control, the control of tyranny, and they take it to the extreme. So Star Trek does not show you right and wrong that the one idea or one mindset is right or wrong depending on what side you're on. They show you the mindset where it's right and the mindset where it's wrong when it's taken to brutal extremes. So that's why you have these different enemies there, as opposed to the Federation. That's why they exist. It's very Shakespearean in nature. Okay, and that's why I just wanted to lay that down there.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that humanity is kind of as a whole the protagonist, because obviously the most easy thing to identify with human being. So the Federation has to be generally noble, bright over the course of the story, with a couple of dips if there's individual people trying to corrupt the course, because it's basically the morality of the human endeavor. And then the other nations or whatever that have you are things that Star Trek would deem to be I think more flawed and unideal conditions that could be respected but are not inherently human and sustainable. And it's about exploring those weaknesses, and by exploring the weaknesses of the other nations, we strengths and weaknesses of the Federation itself. So I like how multi-layered it is. I'm glad that it's not just like all the modern television I'm sure Steve likes that's like trying to hit you on the head with exactly one.
I'm glad old Star Trek was like it was, and not like Steve Shives wanted it to be.
Right. Exactly.
Who practiced aggressive militarism. It's those people over there whose religious credulity allowed a con artist to take advantage of them, or who discriminated against people of a particular gender identity or sexual orientation, or who hated each other for superficial, arbitrary reasons. Despite their well-earned reputation for bigotry and small-mindedness, I've found that many conservatives are willing, even eager, to support social justice movements so long as those movements operate externally. Women's liberation is fine for Saudi Arabia, just not for us. We don't need it here. It's them over there. They've got the problem.
Excuse me,
I'm not saying Star Trek intentionally sends the message that the United States is an ideal society and it's only other countries.
What the fuck is he on about?
I'll let you guys handle this one.
It's really funny to me that he's inverting the argument of feminism or whatever, where they never attack the targets that actually need it. And then he's going to try and turn that and be like, oh yeah, but you know that like 70% or whatever that a man makes is what a woman makes. And then you can easily debunk that. And then you turn that on the head and but they can't even drive in Saudi Arabia, or they can't barely, but like they have no rights.
Oh, you know, they get fucking murdered or have genital mutilation.
Or how the workers are treated in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates in general, and all these migratory practices that are basically scams for people to get sold into slavery, that kind of stuff. That's real stuff. What is it what's going on in the West that's terrible again that's like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to combine...
someone misspoke her fucking gender. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, I'm trying to compare this to like the Middle East and America. So conservatives in America only care when it's in the Middle East and not in America for women's rights or something like that. Well, there's a bit difference between those two areas of the world. So what exactly are you referring to, Steve, that is a pressing issue for conservatives that's not in America? I want to, like, how do you even make that judgment call to say a man in Texas only cares about, I don't know, genital mutilation in Middle East, but not in America? Like, why wouldn't they? Maybe it's not as prevalent. I don't know. There's lots of reasons. Give me an actual issue that someone has a problem with, and then we can see, oh, maybe Steve's right. Because right now I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
The only people that think that men and women have like different rights or whatever under the law in America are people that don't understand the definition of a right. It's the only people that think that like privileges are rights, or that like because you're born a certain way and the way people react to you based on how you look, that's a right. Like, oh, you have the right to use this bathroom because you're a male. It's like, yeah, that's like a given. But then people giving you respect or whatever because you're a man for your accomplishments, and how women don't get enough respect. Like, that's projection. That's what I see all the time from people. So I'd love to hear, like you said, exactly what he's referring to, instead of it just being, you know, an easy thing to say and try and dunk on conservatism or whatever.
Yeah, he used that broad brush a lot in this video. I'm like, dude, just use a very specific message. Give me a story. Give me an example. Give me a stat, something. Like, all right, I could see where you're coming from. And then we could figure out if that's smart or stupid. But right now he's like, conservatives don't care if it's elsewhere. It's fine. It's like, what? Why?
Glib, you're playing Red Dead while on the stream.
Yeah, I am. I have 2 screens.
He's amazing.
I have 2 screens too.
America.
I'm doing like these trader things, which means I don't have to control it. I just have to hit the X button, and then I can watch the watch together.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what the fuck is that tapping sound? I just look at Discord. It's like, Glib is playing Red Dead Redemption.
My bad. I need
to do whatever you want.
I need to fix the attenuation. I need to fix the gain on my mic so that it doesn't do that somehow. I don't understand it. It's new tech. Anyway, shall we continue?
Yes.
That need fixing, but because the show's political messages are so often carried by stories where the heroes confront the problems of other cultures rather than their own, it's easy to see how some people in the audience, people who aren't naturally inclined to concern about social justice...
What? This is nonsense. I could apply the same argument to a liberal who likes Star Trek.
I like how Steve Shives is taking conveniently forgetting the entire premise of Star Trek. All of our problems are solved, Shives. Like, this is the utopian future of humanity, But you know what? Not the entire galaxy didn't follow in our footsteps.
It's so benign.
What a strange argument.
What the fuck is he on? Steve,
it's also not true.
There's also
there's other non-Federation human planets and civilizations and outer area planets and oppositional ideas within Starfleet. I mean, there's that whole secret organization, whatever, that are trying to take over the Federation, and there's all sorts of internal plots against the Federation. So,
right, Section 31, all those other crazy.
Well, Section 31.
Yeah,
well, Section 31 isn't trying to take over the Federation. They see themselves as acting within the Federation's interests, doing the things that they don't believe the Federation has the balls to do.
Right, but that's what I mean. Is that's like stealth fascism, or like the idea of a metaphor coup, like a military junta, whatever it is. That kind of thing. Banana Republic, instead of it being an actual Federation. There's internal threats to the Federation as well. It's not like humanity is perfect, is what I'm saying. Almost all the time, there's at least one human that's doing something unethical in a Star Trek episode. Regardless. There's usually like, they paint the aliens with a sympathetic brush, and then there's like one red shirt or whatever that's like, they killed my cousin, I hate him, I'm there and kill him. And it's like,
damn Cardis.
Yeah, they're perfect. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's his name? What's that character?
Miles O'Brien.
That's right. Miles.
He was the Irish lizard man. I like that guy.
The damn Cardis. Yeah, I love that. And he hates them. And he's right too. Like the show does not. The show gives him both fuel and reason for him to show it that it's a character flaw. It's a weakness as well.
He's racist. Like he's racist, but we see why he came to those conclusions because he was in a war against them.
There's episodes where they actually kind of confront that racism as well.
And it's like, and it's funny because you have the Borg and you have Locutus, so it's like people that distrust Picard. They're not racist against the Borg, trans Borg people. It's like. It's just garden mill human curiosity and uncertainty that drives most of the stuff that's going on, especially the alien stuff, because it's a metaphor. It's supposed to be an allegory. The aliens are just allegories, like LiteratureDevil saying of aspects of humanity.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Issues in their own culture to begin with can take it that way. They need to change is a much more acceptable message than we need to change.
That's fucking bullshit. How many times has Shatner been like, have we become so? Well, you know, and Picard even says it too.
That was Picard. We become so. Yeah. That's that awesome speech from the drumhead.
Yeah, but there's also that speech with Kirk where he's on
the
the planet where he. It's not the Nazi planet, but he's trying to give an impassioned speech about the natures of the Constitution and ethics. And trying to remind people about civilization.
The Drumhead episode specifically, that's going on about the witch hunt kind of trials that end up happening, and that's looking at their own civilization rather than an external.
Oh, he actually brings up the Drumhead in a little bit. He says that the conservatives would hate it because it goes against McCarthyism.
I remember one thing. I'm trying to remember correctly. I think it was Dave Cullen, and he really liked that episode specifically, and he ended up saying that it was actually a lot more close to his politics. He was saying it was against leftist politics. Well, I don't know because I haven't seen the episode itself, but as far as I'm aware, Cullen is a conservative, and he enjoys that episode a lot, or at least he puts that episode in high regard.
I don't think it's not against either side. It's against just the idea of witch hunts.
Yeah. And what's funny is that the McCarthy trials, they keep saying it's a witch hunt, but it wasn't, because it was actually happening. There absolutely was a communist uprising element in Hollywood that was trying to write propaganda. There was a...
I started to think what that would look like.
Well... Open up any
movie.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like Star Trek as much if it pushed right wing politics. If it was against left wing politics, it wouldn't appeal to me either.
It wouldn't be Star Trek
because it's balanced. Yeah, it still wouldn't be Star Trek. It wouldn't be everyone getting together. It would just be one side dominating the other. That's not Star Trek. That's not why I watch Star Trek. I want Star Trek because everyone gets along and both sides are taken into consideration.
Sci-fi usually isn't conservative because it's all about exploring possibilities that don't exist. Unless you're trying to, you know what it is? Is like if you have Warhammer 4K, where you have decay and degradation as a primary theme of the story. And it's like, only through praising the Emperor and going and finding the standard template constructs of a bygone age of technology can we reignite the flame of the Empire. Like that would be a conservative story. But most sci-fi stuff is exploratory because it's human beings sitting down on a piece of paper and trying to figure things out. So I usually think it's more progressive.
Here's a good super chat. Thank you, Oren Albert Mazel. In the original series, Lincoln used the N-word and then apologized. A black crew member shrugged it off, saying, "In our century, we've learned to not fear words."
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, we learned to not fear words in our century. We seems we still have quite a ways to go before we reach that point. But I found the quote from Picard on the drumhead. It says, "How we become so cowardly that we must extinguish a man because he carries the blood of a current enemy." That's Picard. That's Star Trek.
Well, that's Picard from TNG. It's not Picard from Star Trek Picard.
Well, yeah, it's not modern Picard. That's nonsense. But that's Picard. That's TNG Picard.
And then Picard from the movies is like, "I will make them pay for what they've done."
Yeah, that's not Picard either. Okay, the modern Picard from Picard, that's just Patrick Stewart. That's not Picard.
Patrick Stewart goes around like with a sleeveless shirt, shooting people with a laser gun.
Remember
I wouldn't see that wouldn't be Picard and that wouldn't be Star Trek. But it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, he said he wanted to come over to the States and run for president or something. I was like, dude, what the hell are you talking about?
I think he's going a little insane. He can't. I don't think he was born in the United States. He can't run for president.
He can't.
I want to go over this one more time. Have we become so cowardly that we must extinguish a man because he carries the blood of a current enemy? Now, what part of that is right or left wing?
It's all about ethics, man. It's all about up and down.
It's about taking an idea or scenario that is less than favorable to the progression of our society or the sustainability of our society, and then putting it out, and then exploring it, and then pointing out why it's bad and damaging and downright scary.
And I think
so. It's not about left or right. It's about the witch hunts.
Steve is taking his political view and saying, because Star Trek is so good, it must be left leaning because I'm left leaning. And Gene Roddenberry is left-leaning, and my friends are left-leaning, and they all like Star Trek. So when I find some other person who's not left-leaning, I think, whoa, why is that? And instead of asking them questions and figuring out why, he just makes this weird fiction up that they're projecting onto the TV screen when he's the one projecting.
Yeah, he's the one injecting politics. He even tried to they even accuse him on it, call him on it. And he says, "No, that's not me injecting politics. It's already there. You're injecting politics, Steve."
It's always it's always conservatives or whatever, like generic villain politic group. It's never like a specific like. He's like, why do primitivists watch Star Trek if they don't believe in technology? Like, there's an argument for that. I don't know, but nobody's interested because that's not the big bad guy.
You know, the quote from the drumhead is, according to Shives, actually a conservative one because it deals with personal liberty. Because it's talking about how you shouldn't revoke someone's rights because they carry the blood of a current enemy. That sounds like personal liberty to me, individual liberty.
And it's all about othering people. Why do we other bad, immoral people? They're just like us, moral people.
This whole video is. I keep saying it, but it's so benign. It's like, why can't someone who has a differing political opinion than you, Mr. Shives, again, why can they not just like it? Why can they not just enjoy it for a TV show which goes deep into like things like morals and identity?
Sure, but his premise is fundamentally flawed because he didn't define his term properly. He didn't give us an example. He didn't scope out what it means to be a conservative watching Star Trek. He didn't define any of this stuff. So we're sitting there going, okay, why do you think this way, Shives? Because I said so. It's like, that's not an answer.
He really argued himself into a corner by saying that the idea of individual liberty is it's a conservative ideal.
Ridiculous.
That's so weird. Yeah,
he destroyed every argument he would ever have concerning Star Trek with that.
Almost everyone would agree that people should have individual liberty.
Not the leftists.
That's what's
apparently.
so weird. According
to Shives, the leftist ideology, the left-wing ideology, it's against individual liberty.
I usually hear them admitting they don't believe in private property, but I never hear them admitting that they don't like individual liberty. That's so bizarre. Before
I kind of stopped identifying politics and I identified as a leftist, I still believed in individual, like, right, like, what is this?
It's projection. That's all it is.
4K.
Who listens to this guy? I know I used to, but that was before he started to go off the fucking end. Like this wanker.
Yeah, people used to like Shives and actually recommend him before he went insane. And then they all regretted it.
I regret a lot of things. Watching this video is one of them.
Well, we're not going to do the entire thing tonight. It's going to take too long, but we're going to go halfway through. How's that, Shiny?
Sounds good. Get him. Let's continue.
Fucking rip his ass.
True for all of us, no matter where we fall on the political spectrum, but I think it especially applies to conservatives because hostility to change isn't just their natural human instinct, it's a pillar of their worldview. There's something else that we all tend to do, again, regardless of our political perspectives, that helps to account for how conservatives could enjoy a show as didactically progressive as Star Trek. We interpret things in ways that are comfortable for us. There have been numerous episodes of Star Trek with political messages which, by my reading, are harshly critical of the right-wing politics and antiquated social attitudes typically embraced by conservatives. But I've found that many conservatives are able to enjoy those episodes because they just don't see them the same way I do.
What specific
For instance,
episodes?
Take the TNG episode, The Drumhead. To me, and to most people, including Jerry Taylor, who wrote it, the drumhead is a warning against the dangers of Red Scare-style witch hunts. It's one of the few TNG-era episodes where the threat does come from within the Federation. The villain of the piece, Admiral Satie, seeks to discredit and destroy first an otherwise innocent Enterprise crewman who is found to have concealed his Romulan heritage, and then Captain Picard himself, whose only crime was to question Admiral Satie's methods while standing up for the persecuted crewmen. As Picard says to Worf at the end of the episode, villains like Admiral Satie will always be around, and every society, even one as evolved and enlightened as the Federation of the 24th century, will have to remain eternally vigilant in order to stop them from exploiting our fears and prejudices in order to gain power. The most dangerous thought we can ever have is that it couldn't happen here. That's how I read it. However, I've seen conservative Star Trek fans cite Picard's defense of individual liberty during his testimony at Admiral Satie's hearing in order to justify tolerating hate speech.
What?
Because
hate speech with Shives. He believes in hate speech.
When has Picard ever used hate speech except against like the Borg in those movies? Come on. What are you talking about?
It's because they're being racist against the guy who's half Romulan.
You see, now we can quote Picard and see where that hate speech is, but we'd have to actually have the quote there.
Yeah, it's about to bring it up. Like the conservatives always want to defend like white supremacists and stuff. That's what he's talking about.
Individual liberty is the ability to say things that other people might consider.
But the thing is, the witch trials aren't exactly witch hunt. Aren't exactly only on one side of the political spectrum. It can happen on any.
Only right-wing witch hunts exist. Yeah, there's no such thing as like kangaroo courts or anything in communism.
Yeah, no one on the left is religious. Absolutely no one. There's zero religious people on the left.
No one on the left could possibly ever be extreme.
No one ever expects the Communist Inquisition.
I can't imagine a reason why I would want to not identify with any fucking political party. I can't possibly think of a reason.
Because politicians are basically scum. That's probably why.
Here's a super chat from Non-Vitae Rex. Thank you, sir. I've been listening to Arkhammer's Siege of Vrax series. Correct me if I'm wrong. Human society sounds like a nightmarish collectivist dystopia. Well, in most science fiction stories, a dystopia is tend to have a collectivist slant, and that is usually left-leaning. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just unfamiliar with the Arc Warhammer Siege of Vrax. Sounds very, very cool.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's hard to find good dystopian stories in general. So it's hard to like post-apocalyptic ones or that sort of thing. So whenever I find one, I was like, okay, I'll check that out. That sounds cool.
Was to catch up with what Steve Shives said. Only the right wing, only the conservatives produce witch hunts. That's why he's like, why do right wingers and conservatives like this episode? It's all about being anti witch hunt. Obviously, the left wing people and the far left don't do witch hunts. That would never happen. It's only the right wing. So why do they like it so much?
It's not exactly something which is only on one side of the political spectrum. Yeah. It's whenever you find extremism, you'll often find people doing anything they can to try and.
Yeah, it's kind of what the whole episode's about. Being anti-extremism.
What wing was the anti-James?
Anti-Janeway?
Anti-James Charles on YouTube, or like any.
Yeah, cancel culture.
Caterino. What is that? All the that are going after Caterino, they're defending her because she's sharing men or whatever.
Yeah, there's no right, as far as I can tell, there's no right-wing leaning cancel culture people or. What are the other organizations like anti-Jordan Peterson or anti who's a left-leaning politician that everyone sort of dislikes in America? I don't even know. AOC, there's one. No conservatives.
Carlos Maza.
Yeah, no one's trying to. Oh, Maza, jeez. No one's
even Carlos Maza isn't being canceled by the right wing. Yeah. They're like, hey, everybody watch him fail. It's going to be hilarious because he already slandered all of us.
Yeah, no one on the right that I know of is trying to get someone out of a job or get them fired. They just want justice if they were wrong, which I think everyone would want anyway.
You know what the right wing wants to do? They want a public forum where they can embarrass you for lying. That's
actually, I can think of some instances. I'm trying to remember the guy who did Guardian Galaxy.
James Gunn.
But that was more due to some of the comments that he made and not his politics themselves. However, it did become rather political. It was like, oh yeah, Nazis want to get James Gunn cancelled, blah.
But is it Nazis, or is it that people are really sensitive to pedophilia because Save the Children?
I would say it's probably more people sensitive to pedophilia, because some of the jokes he made were very iffy.
Well, I think it'd be a disservice to human beings to say like right wing or left wing is more pro or on like what those jokes would mean in reality. I think it's inappropriate to cancel somebody for jokes, but if you have that behavior, then obviously, I'm not 100% against canceling.
Yes, but anyway, cancel culture does exist a little bit within the right wing, but it's not quite as prominent as far as I can tell.
I think that's all about false copyright strikes and all about trying to deplatform people. I think that conservatives are too busy trying to fight to even have a platform. They're so disenfranchised in popular culture. Everything is dominated by one point of view.
Yeah, I've just never seen big stories like that or big hashtags like that. It's just always been like, even this week with who was it? I even made a video about this. It was two people whose names escape me. It was Adam Driver, because he decided to join the Marines after 9/11, and people thought he was anti-Islamic. He specifically said, no, I just want to protect America. I want to stop whoever did this.
They're attacking him for being a Marine already, which is so stupid. He's already exited, already served. So what is he going to do? Go back and say, oh no, screw my time and all the people that I met during that time period.
Yeah, anyone who's served is always, you admire these people for deciding to do that for whatever reason, even if he was racist.
To put their fucking lives on the line for their country, like that's something I would never even fucking do.
Yeah, I mean, just like, it's like any job. There's people that attack oil workers for contributing to poisoning the planet, or somebody who worked for a fracking company. I would not be like, hey, you live in this environment, this economy and this was the best job opportunity you have. So I'm going to come up to you and say you're doing something immoral. That's like the opportunity there is to do something that maybe I would criticize the practice of, but I'm not going to say to the individual person who's put in that situation that they're evil. for doing that. It's that guilt by association thing that I can't stand. But at the same time, it's like if you're gonna, I think that it's hard to say it, but like if somebody does something that's so criminal that the rest of society doesn't want to deal with them, I think that people have a right to speak out like that. Maybe you don't have the right to cancel somebody, but you do have the right to tell people you want them.
Let's keep going. We got another minute and a half, I think. We'll clean it up.
Yes.
So just one thing I do want to say though is that things which often end up becoming, like more extremist left-wing TV shows, more extremist right-wing TV shows just never get made into production. But most extremist left-wing TV shows do end up getting themselves cancelled just due to the fact of how poorly they're received.
Yeah.
Here's a super chat from Mariner1712. We live in an economy. It's great. Not these days, we don't.
We used to live in an economy, though.
We live in a quarantine.
It's somewhere there. Yeah, pretty much.
That is a lot more accurate.
We live in a quarantine.
After all,
we all live in a yellow submarine.
That scene, the first time any man's freedom is trodden on, we're all damaged.
Hell yeah.
Clearly he was championing the cause of deplatformed white supremacists and Islamophobes. Is that...
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's what he goes to, because obviously right-wingers and conservatives, they only get upset when they always bring out the idea of individual liberty when it's concerning deplatformed white supremacists and Islamophobes, which in Steve Shives' mind is pretty much everyone who disagrees with him.
I just don't know what to say. Like, what is he talking?
Even if I agree with what he's saying about me personally, let's say that I do think that Islamophobes and white supremacists should be able to be on a platform. So what? What's the next statement? That's
the price we have to pay for liberty, like for universal liberty. Is that everyone, as long as they're not breaking the laws of society, they should be able to speak their mind. That's what free speech is about. Now, you might not agree with them, might have horrible, disgusting opinions, but that's what free speech is. It guarantees you the right to speak your mind.
Who wants to spend their life being the editorial authority for like all of the internet? Hey, you can say this, you can't say this.
We almost had that in
that sounds
Canada.
Exhausting.
We almost had a federal organization to monitor hate speech and certain pronouns and certain this or that for all of our ISPs. And it was the most ridiculous, well, not the most ridiculous thing. We've had a lot of ridiculous crap, not only this year, but the past 5 years with the Trudeau government. And
yeah,
you just sit there with our mouths open. Are you insane? Like what possibly went through your head when you wrote this legislation that everyone else in the room, aside from the liberals, would have went, are you crazy? So we've had some pretty bad, some of them got through the cracks because they were loaded up with other things going on, like spending bills, and everyone's like, oh, okay, we'll make compromises here and there. So that's how we got Bill, was it C-31 or 51? Oh no, C-69. It was just, that was the pronoun bill or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So yeah, Canada is a bit progressive in certain areas, but you know what? There's been no language police. I have never seen one person get fined. It's very hard to find. How are you going to find, oh, you called me a name. What was that name? Like, sir. It's like, I'm a ma'am. I was like, what? Okay. Like there's formality and then there's idiosyncrasy, right? So it's like, you can't really do much with that sort of law. And they're on the books, but no one's going to care. So
yeah. And as Picard said, the moment you take away the rights from one person, you kind of take the rights away from everyone. If you take away the rights from the people you see as most loathsome, that's your opinion. Like there could be something else that changes in society. What if you what if it was like in like Nazi Germany? What, you think that would be the same thing? Where let's take away rights from these people. You basically all you're doing is taking away rights from people you don't personally like, and you might not agree with. Most people might not agree with, but yeah, what Ricard said, unfortunately for you, Steve Shives, is that if you take away the rights from one person, then you open the door to take your rights from more people, and you harm everyone by it.
Who has the justified view that gets to decide for other people?
Exactly. That's the exact reason why it's such a dangerous thing to start giving people power to take away rights from people. That's why universal liberty was guaranteed to Americans in the Constitution because they knew the government would want to do just that. Take it away.
Yep.
Okay, another minute and a half, guys. We could do this.
Yeah.
An incorrect reading of the text of that episode? Well, no, that's not really how it works. Terms like correct and incorrect don't apply. A reading of the drumhead wherein the episode argues, albeit indirectly, in favor of tolerating hate speech is one of many possible interpretations.
You know why there's many possible interpretations for the drumhead, Shives? Because they wrote it that way. If it was written in the modern day, the drumhead would have a specific right and wrong. The drumhead showed you the terrible nature of the extremes, but allowed you to think for yourself, allowed you to come to your own conclusions. If it were written today, it would outright tell you who's right and who's wrong.
And people think it's because it allows you to come to your own conclusion. People end up coming away with their own perspective on what it means. It's got room to be interpreted.
You see, if that's the case, then he should be able to say, well, the conservative perspective is this, and the left-leaning perspective is that. Like, that should be very clear. But it's not.
I think it says a whole lot more about the priorities of the person doing the interpreting than the intentions of the people who made the episode.
Wow. Holy geez, Steve. Look in the mirror, man. What do you think he's doing right now, folks? He's accusing other people of.
I honestly don't know what to say at this point. It's like, oh, well, the interpretation, is more about the person they're interpreting it than what's actually in the thing. How does he make these judgments on people? I don't understand how he thinks it's...
I think it's because he has to justify personal stuff by being extroverted politically. Like, he has to attack the evil people. That justifies his decision-making process.
You see, this is why I kind of just decided to not identify with any fucking politics, because I find it all ridiculous and fucking retarded in so many ways.
Well, that just makes you a ba-ba-ba. Here's a box. It's getting it.
That makes you a dystophobe or something.
Well, I'm sure it'll make me something to someone, and someone out there is going to call me a retard, but I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
The usual term is istophobe.
Istophobe.
Yeah.
For Canadians, we just Americans as a spectator sport, so it's like, oh, what are they doing today? Politics.
Another thing is, a large contributor is that I often find that when you set yourself to a side, you often end up just agreeing with that side because it's also your side, and that also ends up leading into just more and more extremism. I used to be I went from very leftist to very anti-SJW. It was not necessarily conservative, and I just found that I was getting into more and more extremes of both leftist and anti-SJWs purely because I was only listening to one side, and because I was agreeing with that side because it was my own side, not necessarily because I wasn't thinking about it, just because it's natural for human beings to kind of lean towards people they agree with, if that makes sense. It's probably going really off topic here, but that just to kind of flesh out a little bit more.
No, that's fine.
Anyway, I hate politics. I don't identify. There you go. That's all you need to know about me.
This is why we don't watch Steve's Shives too often.
This is why I don't like politics. Fuck politics.
I love it. It's so much fun.
It's retarded.
Well, Americans have a certain stomach for it, so Canadians are like, oh, what the hell?
No, there's a certain stomach for it over here as well, but I just at this point I want nothing to do with it.
It's because for Americans, it's like putting on a judge's outfit and a gavel and sitting on a chair is like playing. So then suddenly people start talking differently, and it's all an act, and I don't think we really respect very much authoritarianism, because we're all like, who are you anyway? Just another person? Yeah, that's what we're all trying to do here. That's America.
It's a senator from Krypton. That's what he...
Anytime somebody gets too far out of line in America, they get hammered back into, who are you again? Why are you trying to lord over us? That's what I feel.
Another 20 seconds. Let's do it.
But the point is, the explanation for how a conservative could like that episode lies in the possibility of such an interpretation. It's not just episodes.
What?
People can read characters they like or identify with so that those characters seem a lot more like them than their creators probably intended. A few years ago, Anna Marie Cox interviewed Republican Senator...
This part's good. I like this. I legitimately like this part. Not Shives' point, but this goes to show you a pretty good example of what it means to be that these things are not political, that people just inject politics into them.
Steve, there have been many people we've covered here on the Smudcast, but honestly, you're one of the people that I hate the most. I don't hate many people we cover, but I do hate you, Steve. I hate you.
That's funny. I have much more trouble with someone like Major League because it's so disingenuous. But I feel like Steve actually believes in his shit. You know,
it's to Steve Shives' credit. He does speak in the vernacular. Like he's not trying to be. He's trying not to puff himself up with using exaggerated vocabulary, and because you can understand him, and he doesn't try to puff himself up by alluding to, at least not in this video, alluding to philosophers no one's ever heard of or books that no one's ever read.
At least he is not himself can have a fucking conversation and a debate. He may not win it. No, he had like one with EFAP.
He's a clown. He doesn't know what he's saying.
He's a clown, yes, but at least he won't just fucking block people. At least Major League actually went on EFAP and actually had a discussion.
Yeah, but it's like listening to somebody like. It's like going to McDonald's and you're hanging out with a friend. There's somebody's friend and they got invited along. And they're like, yeah.
The way
movie, it's really cool. It kicks ass, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like dipping his French fries in mustard, and you're like, "That's really weird." I like it.
The best way I can kind of just describe it is Major Lee. I hate his arguments more than I hate him, but Steve, I specifically have a thing against Steve Shives.
You got it. You
dislike him, love him or dislike him. It's always good to point out the positive attributes of people you cover and all that stuff. It's because if you don't, you fall in the same trap as Steve Shives does.
Yeah. So he's not completely insane or he's not like stupid.
I feel like I can understand Steve Shives. At least he speaks the vernacular. At least he's not being overbearing with trying to puff himself up. I mean, he's still kind of overbearing and arrogant, but. He just sees things differently, but he does so in a passive-aggressive manner and demonizing other people. That's what I always try to point out and argue against. Not because they think differently. That's fine, but it's always the fact that they think differently and they try to demonize people who think different than they do.
Yeah, that's
demonization.
That's the demonization. Yeah, it's the rule book. They always demonize your opponent, and they feel morally superior, so they can keep talking about how great they are, etc., as opposed to just having a conversation why you think someone is wrong. Here's
if Steve Shives didn't demonize people, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
You know, I make fun of people when they're in that mode, but I don't think that I would have that kind of acidic response if they didn't engage immediately. I'm very forgiving. You can pick up somebody's you can tell that he doesn't like people that are conservative at all. He doesn't want to give them a good faith argument. He's like, all right, fine, I'll try to be fair, but I really hate these people. And then you have Movie Bob who just has no filter. He's like, he's just going to come out and say eugenics.
When it comes to these SJW types, it's not because they think differently. It's because they're not specifically right or left. They might be claiming that they're leftist right now at the moment, but they're really just a mindset of people that are there to make people angry and cause trouble and basically cancel people. They're basically the censor. The SJWs are basically the censor, and that's not good for anyone who respects freedom. So it's not. So when you go rail against SJWs, it's not because they think differently or hold different politics than one does. It's usually because they're the subset of people. And that's not specifically talking about right or left. They're a subset of people, depending on which side, pretty much depending on which side has power. But they are the subset of people who try to use morality, try to use politics to gain power for themselves in a selfish pursuit of control.
Yes. This is a really good stream so far. I know we've gone on tangents, but everyone has been pretty dynamite. Yeah. Thank you for humoring us.
Here's Adam Wooford. Thank you for the super chat, sir. The anti-trekker doesn't hate Star Trek. He just points out storytelling problems and reviews tactics, principles of Starfleet. That sounds like an awesome guy. Yeah,
I love this guy. Can we get him on? Yeah, I love. If that's true, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, guys, we have one. Well, we can stop now if you want, or we could see the point.
Oh yeah, because it's going to go into a tangent on because Steve Shives is going to make a huge point here, so this might be a good place to stop. Actually.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, no, this has been interesting. Steve Shives is obviously not the most logical fellow to watch. He's obviously biased in some regards. But I'm still enjoying it. I'm still having a good time with you guys, so I do appreciate you guys.
Yeah, Steve Shives is fun. Steve Shives is fun.
No. I'll say we are fun. It's fun to hang around. You know, I find it fun to just hang around you guys. Steve Shives is not fun.
He's good. He's good fodder. He provides a lot of very interesting takes. Like there's some people where they just twist my brain into pretzels because I feel like they're trolling me with their logic. That's what I complain about with Major Lee. It's like. He'll be like, he'll be like, it's a really feminist movie, and you get to look at women. Okay, like let me just make sense of your worldview.
I've shown people some of Major Lee's videos, and they honestly thought like he was like some kind of parody, like he was joking or not being serious. It's like, no, this guy is actually serious. It's like, no, you. So they honestly thought I didn't get the idea of sarcasm when I showed them a Major Lee video.
Okay, he is serious, but the thing is, his logic doesn't make sense, so he just rolls with everything. And then he has a thought in his brain. He goes, oh, I don't like that. And then I'll start explaining it. But you know what? The movie's still awesome. And then he'll go on to the next point. And it's just this cacophony of nonsense. Like you saw the ending.
Get to look at women.
Yeah, you saw the ending of his made-up videos that don't get created. You know, they're stupid. They're insane. And he does that for kicks. So I'm assuming half of his gig or half of his shtick is just being a clown.
He said that, yeah. He said he likes being provocative.
Right, for the sake of it. And I get people like that. I've seen a whole bunch of videos of people who do that a lot. And there's Vosh, who I know believes in the shit he's talking about. But
that dude.
But like 80% of it is just totally crazy. And he puts on a show, and that's how he gets his views. And people who are either slightly left-leaning or completely left-leaning eat this up. So he gets all these facts wrong. He gets all this history wrong. It's just ridiculous crap. And it's entertaining for that role, for that particular reason. And it's nauseating for us who know better. And I think it took me like a few months just to finally... we went over the entire video, LiteratureDevil and myself. It took like 3 episodes.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun covering.
And then I said, you know what? I'm just going to do a whole thing about what we just did. I was like, you know what? That's going to take way too long. I'll just do the Star Wars crap he was lying about because he had comic book stuff and other movie stuff. And that was painful to go through because it was just so stupid. But
it was just so stupid.
No, it was. It was absolutely insane. It's like someone who never watched Star Wars or who did watch it and just twisted it in his own worldview. Like, of course, Kylo lost or Kylo won. Kylo was totally winning that fight. And he started rambling on and on about his torso being shot with a big hole. And it's like, dude, just...
Yeah, in Vosh's view, Kylo Ren pretty much had all of his intestines hanging out of his stomach. And all his
then he probably would have given up at that point.
Didn't someone say that Kylo Ren actually ended up nearly winning that fight?
Probably some liar. Someone who didn't actually watch the movie said that. Maybe.
I know. I remember someone who we were watching and covering said that.
He scored 0 hits.
I don't know. They all kind of run together after a while. We all see the same stuff.
Yeah, a lot of these people have just kind of merged together in my mind. So, like the other day when someone brought up one of the people who we covered, it's like, wait, who's that guy? It's like, oh, it's this guy. We covered him in like Smudcast 5. It's what? Who? What? Sorry,
it's hard to remember. I know because once
I watched the video, it's like I don't. Yeah, I watched the video again. I was like, I don't remember this video. We covered this video.
Once you get it out of your system, this video. Thankfully, you go to bed, you wake up, you say, "What the hell was that crap all about?" Unless it's like Witten Folly, who's like totally ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
you can't remember all.
Oh, I'm enjoying that. I started watching that last time. I'm going to continue that again after we quit here.
Oh boy! Wow.
So you remember the guy I sent you the video of, the person who I'm friends with IRL? He made that that video. Well, he watched one of the streams. He ended up coming back to me. It's like, oh yeah, I watched one of your streams. Like, oh, you did? It's like, oh yeah, where you watched this person? It's like, who? It's like, oh yeah, well he talks about this, that, and the other. I don't remember. It's just something that I just end up forgetting about these streams. They're not, for me, they're just fun, have a bit of discussion. They don't actually last more than 5 seconds. I only remember some particular ones who end up.
Well, Kendo Ren is the biggest one.
Who can forget 8080 chat? Unfortunately, and not because of his video, just because of how he's reacted to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some people that just keep doubling down on it.
Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. We do appreciate it. We'll see you next time, either tomorrow or the day after. We're not sure exactly when. I'll figure it out with these guys. But thanks to guys, LiteratureDevil, for popping in late. I do appreciate for coming on at all. That's great for you. Thank you, sir. Glib, you're a multitasking genius, and Shiny, you're always reliable. Thank you, sir. So thanks, guys, for all your super chats. We appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
God damn, I'm reliable.
Have a good one.